Hello and welcome to the 11th episode of the Chaplain's Assistance Motor Pod. I am your host, Gary, and if this is your first time to the show, hello, and if you're returning, welcome back. Now, this is the podcast where I talk about what's going on in my world of G.I. Joe, whether it's new stuff, new news, or just randoms going on as I continue to clean out my basement, sometimes called the pit, but known to my wife as a big friggin' mess. In the past 2 weeks, here at the motor pool has been spent really with quiet time in the garage as we perform maintenance on our needed machines. You know, Muskrat does need the lawnmower, so we need to make sure that that's in tip-top shape for when it's lawn mowing season. But personally, I do have the Chaplain's Assistance Motor Pod Ram bicycle, which has been getting fitted with new wheels and brakes, etc. If you ever want to know about how to take a $300 bicycle and make it a $1,000 bicycle, I can point you in the right direction. Also, the Chaplain's Assistance Motor Pod Vamp Mark II, also known as the pickup, was also in need in new winter tires. So the past couple weeks have been kind of expensive, changing oil in the lawnmowers and just, been really busy keeping things going so that we prepare for the winter season. And as we prepare for the winter season, there will be hopefully a little more downtime with what's going on everywhere going and things. I have a couple restoration projects lined up, especially a big one that I'm really itching to finally start. It was started about a year ago, and I was trying to remove decals, and I was having a lot of time because it's textured plastic. I'm not going to go into it too much, but I was having problems removing with the Goo Gone, trying to get the textured plastic to release the glue. The smooth surfaces, pretty straightforward. I WD-40, peel, and then scrub the ever-loving goop off. Try to stay away from Goo Gone. I really try to use Dawn liquid detergent, and usually between Dawn and WD-40 I can get everything out, and even with some electronics cleaner, which is a fast evaporating thing, it's not harmful to plastic like brake cleaner would be. And I'm moving on that. It started a year ago, and I really want to finish it up because I have something special in mind for when that is finally finished to share with all of you. The other thing, preparing for that restoration project, was cleaning my basement, again, resorting stuff, trying to move things away, listing some things on eBay, little things here and there, not going full out, but just in general cleaning up and moving things out. However, that has not stopped me from buying things, and I don't know why I continue to buy things as I'm trying to get rid of things. It's just a vicious cycle here in the collecting world. The big news is, for me, I finally got my hands on the Walmart Retro Scarlet. And the Walmart Retro Scarlet is a beautiful modern era figure. It is my absolute favorite 4-inch or 3 3/4-inch Scarlet. It is beautiful. The proportions are for the most part correct. The head sculpt is delish. It is just such a welcome figure to finally have. I think that the head sculpt really makes the rest of the figure, and I'm happy. It's one of the few moderns I'm going to have, and my modern collection, my 4-inch stuff, is separated really into two camps, where I have my G.I. Joe Renegade set, which I put together about 2 years ago, because I got a couple key things in 2017, and it was like, at that point, I might as well just finish it. And it also involved me rebuying some of the rare figures, which I bought off the pegs. It's a vicious cycle. You buy something, I'm never going to need it again, and then you get rid of it, and then, guess what, I'm going to buy it again. So that's mostly the story of Law & Order and Airtight in that series. the other thing is I have been buying some O-ring guys, and I've been buying 1990s O-ring guys because the 1990s is really the section of my collection where I have the most room to grow. And I'm concentrating on complete figures. I'm not getting, giant lots anymore, so I'm looking for complete figures in the $20-ish range. And, I'll plop a 20 down if I feel it's worth it, and then, maybe $5 extra for shipping, and then have it come in, and then that's that, because there's no real toy shows going on in my area. I'm trying to keep a better eye out and keeping my schedule open, which has also been hard because I'm working 6 days a week. But in 90s figures, in the past couple weeks, I'm talking about 92, 93 Wild Bill, 93 Cross Country, 94 Flint, Mega Marines Gung Ho, Mega Marines Blast Off, the 93, 94 Target, the 93 Eel, 94 Dial Tone. And I will say this, Dial Tone is such a departure from that original mold. The 1986 was gorgeous. The Sonic Fighters is not a bad color update. And that is the one thing the 90s did, was take it to an extreme before it was extreme. And I looked at Dial Tone. He is such a video game character, I would say, of the 1990s, that he is going to eventually find a spot with my Defiant. And it's like he's a different character anyway. Without the bray, that silly space helmet. It has a mic on it, which is actually a really cool detail. But his mold is really cool. He's got 2 little grenades over his left shoulder, and he's got some green accents underneath the blue vest, and he has like a little control panel over his belly, similar to the air tights. And he's got some nice green pants with black boots and black accents, which also matches gloves. Overall, his colors aren't offensive. The waist is a little wide. He's got a narrow abdomen going into a thick waist. It's a pretty cool figure. It's a little misproportioned here and there, but overall, as 1990s figures go, it's fast becoming one of my favorite ones. I like it on the level of a Mindbender version 2 rather than a Law from the 1990s. And like I said, he's going to look really at home somewhere in the Defiant playset. And it's going to be cool because nobody's going to recognize him as Dial Tone. Now, one of the other figures I got, was that Mega Marines Gung Ho. He has this orange hat, and I put it on Twitter. I says, this is the most 90s thing ever. It's a backwards hat with a headset, and it's a helmet. Bright orange. And it does have that cool microphone coming out, which is great, because now the microphones aren't separate pieces. They're just part of the helmet, so you don't lose them. And he's that big, giant neon green, but he's Mega Marine, so I don't even know why I bought him. I wasn't planning on buying Mega Marines, but he was... The seller was selling a few other figures, and I was like, yeah, why don't I just get that too? Another one, checked off the list without the vintage Play-Doh. It's really been a smorgasbord of 90s, neon 90s for me. And I haven't really had the time to really acclimate myself to the figures. I took them out, made sure they're all nice, left good ratings. But nothing's really... Dial Tone spoken the most to me, but I've just been too busy the past 2 weeks to really play and manipulate with them and pose them and let them sit on my shelf with my display, and just figure something out, build a story in my head. I'm happy I have them, but I just haven't figured out how happy I am with them yet. And that's really about it. It's been a slow news to bi-weekly. And with that, I'm just going to go right into the review for the episode. So this week on the Chaplain's This Motor Pod, we're taking a look at the 1986 Cobra Surveillance Port, the playset. Now, do playsets belong on the Motor Pod? Maybe. They come in a box. Maybe that's my criteria. It comes in a box, it's a vehicle. comes on a blister card, it's not a vehicle, which will come in handy with that role if I decide to do the motorized action packs. But anyway, enough about those. Let's talk about this thing. The Surveillance Port was one of 3 playsets in 1986. And by playsets, I mean mini playsets. I'm not talking about the Terror Drone, which is absolutely an awesome playset. But 3 mini playsets were called battle stations. And you had the Law, the Outpost Defender, and the Cobra Surveillance Port. Of the 3, you can have first, second, and third place. And right now, just not including the Surveillance Port, the Law is definitely at the bottom of the list, and the Outpost Defender is at the top of the list. But where does the Cobra Surveillance Port fall in that hierarchy? Well, let's take a look at it. So it is composed of several pieces that form essentially the main portion of the base, all molded in dark blue, that good, rich blue, very reminiscent of the Rattler and the blue snake armor. And you have a main base which has 1, 2, 3, 4 walls, a little top, and they all clip together. And once they're clipped together, it is a very sturdy assembly. The assembly rests on 3 jack pads. So there's one in the front, one on the right side, as if you're shooting a machine gun from the surveillance port, and then a third one in the rear. Those are molded in dark gray along with the rest of the accessories, the radar dish, the 2 machine guns, and the antenna. The machine gun on the left-hand side is a reuse of the mold of the G.I. Joe Slugger. If you have a Slugger and it has the machine gun, if it's green, it belongs to the Slugger. If it's gray, it belongs to the surveillance port. And it's also true if you have a surveillance port and you have a green machine gun, that means it really belongs on the Slugger. So the Cobra Surveillance Port has a couple levels. So you have a step and from the back, I'm looking at the back of it right now, right? So you step on the step and you go in there. There's only 2 pegs for the characters. So if you're standing them up, that's convenient. And the pegs also place the figures at the machine gun posts. There is a little cavity on the left-hand side for a figure to put their feet in and to sit in and to work some controls via a little sticker. And the same thing can be in the big wall. There's a little cavity for them to step down into to operate the radar dish. That's pretty neat. The stickers are well done, and the stickers really make the playset come alive from a functional perspective. On the front, you have the Cobra sigils, you have the surveillance port. Now, here's something I don't understand why with all these the mini playsets, a lot of them have the name of the playset on them. If I'm having a surveillance port, and I'm in a paramilitary terrorist organization, why am I going to take the time to stencil out what the heck it is? And as somebody that has fulfilled government contracts before, and they do want asinine labeling on what they're buying from you, I don't know. It just seems kind of out of place. I mean, on all of them, but especially on this one. I mean, maybe Cobra Commander doesn't really know what to call it, so he's like, "Oh, go over there," and he's like, "Go over there to that station, the surveillance port." It's like, "Oh yeah, thanks for labeling it. Now I know what to say when I'm telling the Viper to go over there." It's just what it is, I guess. It's very boxy. It's part of that aesthetic that I always call the Battle Force 2000 aesthetic. It's very angular, and so it doesn't come out spread organically. So this is like something that would be shipped to a location and it would be erected and then it would be manned. Whereas like the same year you have the Outpost Defender, which looks like the Joes were in the jungle and they cut down or they scavenged some 2x4s and they built it up. I would expect the surveillance port could have been molded in a more G.I. Joe green or white, and it would have fit in, let's say, with the 1983 headquarters or the future 1987 Mobile Command Center, like if it was driving up to it. And then the Outpost Defender could have been painted Cobra colors, and it would have fit in. And really, for the Outpost Defender to be Cobra, all you have to do is change the green sandbags to blue. That's kind of an odd choice. Another odd choice with the surveillance port is on the left side for the little Slugger machine gun. Like if you're manning the machine gun, there is a slit port like about knee level, And it's like, why would you leave yourself open to fire through there? Maybe it's for somebody to crouch down and look out. Okay, that's cool. That's kind of like what they did with the 1984 Cobra bunker. But that had the guns manned out and it had a cover. It wasn't meant for pop-up. So leaving that open is kind of an odd choice, but I can see how it would factor into playtime. There you have that. So that's pretty, so that's a feature there that I just explained away. And then finally you have those 3 jacks. Now the jacks remind me of when you have a boat trailer or a trailer in general and you have to, you're taking it off the ball hitch of your truck or SUV. And the caveat with this Cobra Surveillance Port is that these 3 jacks are loaded on pins, and the pins are constantly stressed. So if you put a lot of weight, you're gonna get a stress mark, if not break them. And a complete Cobra Surveillance Port, it's getting expensive. Like the Outpost Defender is expensive, so is the Cobra Surveillance Port. I don't know what it is about them. Something about that 1986 year, I guess, but everybody hates the law. That one bucks the trend. Back to this. So these 3 pins are constantly broken. And if you find one completely intact, it commands a premium price. I have a Cobra Surveillance Port with a broken pin. The pins are tapered, so they're not straight. What I'm going to eventually do to my broken one is I'm going to put it in my machinist vise. I'm going to drill a hole through and then create a nylon pin, glue it in place, and I'm going to, when I make the nylon pin, I'll taper it on the lathe. It'll fit the jack pad back on it. Truth be told, part of the 2 weeks was me trying to find my broken surveillance port, and I couldn't find it. So I really wanted to do and maybe that's a future video for me, showing how I'm fixing that. I know a lot of people don't have access to mills and lathes, but I do, and I love playing with them. It's more fun to play with them on personal projects than it is on paying jobs. Take a look at the box, because I also happen to have a box handy. The cover picture of the Cobra Surveillance Port is reversed. The slit that would be on the left side as you're shooting out, it's on the left side as you're facing it. So it's the mirror image, but they managed to put surveillance port, not mirror imaged, on the cover. So that's good on Hasbro for that. And you flip it over onto the back, the walls and everything is actual size shown. The box is a little narrow, so I don't know how it's actual size, but it looks about more like 85% size. And it's pretty good. It doesn't really say much about it. Machine guns do not shoot. It has an antenna and a radar dish. And it's sturdy construction for rugged play. Well, your pins loaded in single shear do not have sturdy construction. And on the box too, it's showing a bat and a Cobra Viper operating it. Once I finally get this into place and I get this manned, what are my options for manning the Cobra Surveillance Port? Who will be in there? As a 1986 toy, having 2 1986 figures and the artwork, that's great. But what am I actually thinking? Well, I'm thinking with the surveillance port, and you have an antenna, so that means you have communication. So I am most assuredly including a televiper. And then the other thing is, well, who's going to be taking notes for this? Who's going to be the political officer in the Cobra Surveillance Port? And obviously that is a Cobra Crimson Guardsman. And who would be manning it as the machine gunner? Would it be a Viper? A Viper's a good choice. I also think that I would have 2 guys. I would have a Viper, and I would also use a Night Viper, because, hey, if you're surveilling things, what's also a good time to surveil things? At night. That's really who I would man the Cobra Surveillance Port. Now, where does it stack up when you have the Outpost Defender? Well, it is definitely a strong number 2. I don't like it as much as the Outpost Defender. I think it is kind of out of place with its angularity and really just being a Cobra little battle station playset. I think with the angularity, and maybe if you painted it black and red, it would be actually quite at home as, let's say, one of Destro's Iron Grenadier playset. I think it would fit in with that modern angular aesthetic that G.I. Joe was trying to capture, that 5 to 13 years in the future. And this is absolutely on the far end of that scale. It just looks a little too expensive for what Cobra would be using out in the field. That being said, with a terror drone, this would look good if you're setting up your terror drone and then like a foot out you put this, so this way it's like kind of an advance warning for the terror drone. That would be cool. But if like you were setting up to spy on G.I. Joe, I don't think you would be doing this. With that, you put a small vehicle like a ferret or a Cobra Claw or a Trouble Bubble next to it, just so this way you got a way to ferry your guys from point A to point B. It fits. It still fits in the G.I. Joe, the collection, my collection like this. But I have one Terradrome, and I have the 2 surveillance ports. I think that's enough. I don't want to get another surveillance port. I might just go down to the 1. It'll complement the Terradrome, and it'll complement a diorama setting. And that's what I'm seeing in my head. If you're seeing something different in your head, if you're seeing a different way to use it, if you're seeing a different way to man it, leave a comment wherever you found this podcast, or find me on Twitter or Instagram at ChaplinJoePod, or drop me an email at iggaryv@gmail.com. Wow, the ending just snuck up on us like that, probably because we were being surveilled. I need to get out of the pit and back into the motor pool and back to doing maintenance, so hopefully I can free up some time to do restoration projects. I've been your host, Gary. This has been the Chaplain's Assistance Motor Pod. Don't forget to like or leave a comment or rate this podcast, because all that stuff just helps things get bigger and better and more people know everything about theirs. Don't forget, we are on YouTube as well as Spotify, Anchor.fm, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and other fine podcatching platforms. We are a member of the Pint Oak Comics family, so you can visit them at pintoakcomics.com. We may be strange, but we aren't estranged, and we still talk just through direct message. With all out of the way, there's more missiles to deliver to more masses, and see ya.